Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Andy the Mad Tatter, and welcome back, or indeed welcome if it's your first time joining us here on the channel. Sorry, it's been a while, as always. It's been a little bit longer even than usual by my standards. There's a sentence of actual words in there somewhere. Long story short, the second 2 weeks of September and the first 2 weeks of October were pretty shocking, both in terms of sales and other bits and pieces going on as well. You saw the last little video that I put out there about the individual that was imitating me on eBay. Glad to say now that he's not got a shop account anymore, however he still is on eBay and is still receiving negative feedback. So, you know, at least it's not necessarily as likely to be sort of confused with me now. Also in September, when it was sort of quite a bad time for sales-wise, it was particularly quiet. I had a big bundle of cameras, which I was working my way through with a view to listing and whatnot on eBay. I decided that I needed money quick, and these particular cameras hadn't cost an awful lot, so I decided to take them to Real Camera in Manchester, who were absolutely fantastic. This video is in no way sponsored by or endorsed by them. If I have a good experience with a company that I think you might be able to use too, I'll always quite happily recommend them to you. So that's Real Camera in Manchester. I'll drop a link in the description for them. Long story short, I kind of sold some cameras to them that I purchased. I could have put these cameras myself up on eBay and maybe made about 500 or 600 quid on them from a £20 buy. But like I say, I was in a position where the sales had been really slow and we needed the cash, so I went and sold them to Real Camera in Manchester. They gave me a really good price. They were really helpful as well, and I learned quite a lot about about what to look for when buying cameras and stuff like that from them. So it was a good education. But it was the first time I've taken a train in probably about 15 years, and when I came back on the train, I had my wallet stolen essentially. So that was, I came out about 150 quid, I think, up on this bundle of cameras, even just selling them to a trade contact like that, so I was really happy there. But, yeah, didn't ever see any of the money, and didn't ever see any of the contents of my wallet again either. So then had to shell out for things like a replacement driving licence, and all of that. Well, actually, no, that didn't end up costing me anything in the end, thankfully. But regardless, that was a lot of hassle that I didn't need, replacing my driving licence, replacing all my bank cards, PayPal cards, etc. So that was a bit of a nightmare. And then, of course, that meant that I was even further in the hole in terms of no money, because not only did I then not have the money, I didn't have the stock as well. Moving on into October, we had quite a nice October weather-wise, quite sort of the last couple of weeks in September, first couple of weeks in October, the weather was lovely. The downside that had was that because a little crack had opened up in some blackout material that I use in the room where some of my clothing's stored, it's hung on rails, there's a little crack that had emerged in the blackout material, which I didn't realise, and that ended up bleaching pet sections of quite a few of the coats that I had in stock. So that was only about 60 quid or so in terms of stock value, but in terms of the retail sales, I think that was about sort of 400 to 500 quid's worth of coats that potential sales that I lost through that as well. So yeah, it's not all roses doing this business, but you've kind of got to get back on the horse and crack on with it, really, which is what I have been doing. And been grafting quite a lot, listing religiously, getting every single little bit of stock that I've been sat on ready and photograph listed, etc. And yeah, definitely have seen a turnaround. I mean, there's been a natural turnaround in terms of it has naturally got busier again, but also I think listing daily, replacing sold listings with multiple listings. So if I sell if I sell one item for say 20 quid, I'll put 3 other items up at 20 quid each. So it's just kind of replacing replacing a sale with more listings. That's given me a reasonable amount of success as well. So this video is going to be a bit of a catch-up, both in terms of the channel, because I'll probably chat about other little bits and pieces as I'm going along. This is going to be a long video, guys, I'm sorry to say. So if you don't like long videos, best to sort of break this up into parts. if you do like long videos, get yourself a brew, and here we go. So this is a sales catch-up. This is what sells on eBay, and it's a sales catch-up for September 2019 and October 2019. This is the last 2 weeks of September and all of October. So let's get into some items. First, the first part of the September's video is uploaded on YouTube already. So this, where we are now, is carrying on from the end of that video. So this is the 19th of September 2019. We have the Disney Store Tigger ceramic breakfast bowl. Bought that one for £2, sold for £18.94, and made a profit of £10 5p after shipping and fees on that one. Still on the 19th of September. Cupcake Heaven 1000-piece jigsaw puzzle. All of the jigsaw puzzles that you see me sell, they are all brand new and sealed. I don't, with the exception of one actually, which you will see later on in the video. But other than that one, I always sell new and sealed jigsaws. And I bought a few of them last year for Christmas to get on, you know, and they were selling quite well up to Christmas last year and over Christmas last year. And they've trickled out over the months, and they're starting to sort of pick up a little bit again now, I think, as we get towards Christmas again. So this one cost £3, sold for £21.94, and made £11.64 after shipping and fees there. 20th of September, this is a Panasonic Camcorder adapter block. So this is the power supply for a Panasonic camcorder. It is literally just the bit that the cable plugs into. So it'll have a cable that goes into the block and then plugs into the wall, and then another cable that comes out of the block and goes to the camera. Didn't have either of the cables, just had the power block. But I'd seen them sell. I'd seen them in the eBay solds, and knew that, you know, they were selling as they were. So this one cost £1, sold for £16.94, went on the global shipping program to Norway, and made £9.43 after shipping and fees on that one. 20th September, again, this is an item out of the loft. This is a Turkish-made Yenigun Backgammon Set. Apologies for the pronunciation if I got Yenigun wrong there, but that's how it reads to me. This company, Yenigun, or however it's pronounced, they are very well known, as it turns out, for producing high-quality backgammon sets. And this one was no exception. Did have a little chip in the corner, but it's a really high gloss finish to it, almost like a French polished kind of wooden finish to it. Really nice sort of mother of pearl effect plastic tokens and stuff as well. So just everything's that little bit of a cut above. So if you're ever looking out at backgammon boards, Yenigun as a brand, superb, definitely worth looking out for. The spelling there is correct. Like I say, I just don't know whether the pronunciation is. So this was a free item because it essentially came out of the loft. Sold to £41.94 and made £22.33 after shipping and fees on that one. Next, 21st of September, genuine Sky Plus Disney Frozen remotes. Picked up a few of these remotes actually from a local charity shop. Strangely, they were all brand new and sealed. Picked them all up from the same charity shop, paid £3 each for them. Normally I pay a sort of a quid to, you know, if it's something particularly special, I might pay a couple of pounds for a remote, but these being brand new and sealed and being Sky Plus remotes, I knew that they were going to do well, and I knew what sort of money they sold for. So this was the Frozen variation. I've also got the Newcastle United Football Club colours variation as well. What to look out for with these remotes, there are some counterfeit ones out there and you can tell them straight away because they're essentially a sticker stuck onto the remote, whereas the actual proper Sky ones, it's printed onto the plastic, so you can spot them if you ever see them out and about. So like I say, these cost £3 each. This customer actually bought two of them off me, but bought the two Frozen remotes that I had. So total cost of this sale was £6, sold for £42.93 and made £27.26 after shipping and fees. Also received positive feedback from the buyer on that one. 22nd of September, this is a vintage 1982 University of Washington Huskies Rose Bowl Champions jug decanter thing. Did quite a lot of research into this one when I got it because obviously it is very specialist. It was produced by a particular bourbon distillery in the US and filled with their bourbon for the Rose Bowl American football competition in 1982, which is a university football competition. So the winner's name and the winning team was the Huskies there. That was all on the sort of printed onto the decanter, and it had all of the dates and all of the previous winners and stuff printed onto the back as well. Paid $4.99 for this one. Sold for $59.94 and made $32.10 after shipping and fees. Went on global shipping to the US, which is not surprising at all, and received positive feedback from the buyer on this one. Now, interesting, this was one of 2 buyers that have contacted me this month when they've purchased an item and actually said to me, let me know if you want me to pay any more for the packaging, because I really want to make sure that this arrives safely. And my reply's always been the same. You don't need to pay any more for the packaging, don't worry. I generally put more packaging on than things need anyway. And the reason I do that is because it's my obligation to do that, to make sure that it gets to people safely. So what I've actually got, I think I've spoken about this in videos before, that I get a lot of packaging material from car repair body shops. So what I've actually got from there is a really thick pieces of dense foam that come out of headlamp boxes. And this foam's sort of constructed in layers, so you can. What I did, I put the jug down on a piece of this foam. I cut around the outside perimeter of the jug, and then I pulled a load of the foam out of the middle, but still left some of the bottom layer in. So the whole thing was essentially encapsulated like in a jug-shaped hole in this piece of super dense foam. I then put a couple of pieces of cardboard on either side of that and wrapped it really heavily with bubble wrap as well. So it was a big packaging job, but it was more than worth it because the buyer was extremely grateful for the lengths that I went to in terms of packaging it. Really, it didn't take long to do. It didn't take any longer than anything else, and it meant that the item got to the States. It's not a. This wasn't a tough thing by any stretch. It was ceramic, so and obviously this stopper there being ceramic as well. There's a lot of potential for things to go wrong with that. So I wrapped it really heavily. It got there. It got there in one piece, and the buyer was absolutely thrilled with it. So that was quite a good little purchase. I always look out for sort of specialist things like this if I ever get the opportunity to pick them up. You're never necessarily going to sell them quickly. And like with something like this, I don't think I'd have ever sold this to a customer in the UK. So having global shipping turned on there is obviously is quite key as well for things like this. But always worth looking out for sort of sports memorabilia, particularly if it commemorates, a win at a particular contest or something like that. So nice little sale, that one, I think. Probably one of the better ones for the end of September as well. 23rd of September, Alcatel One Touch mobile phone. Never expected to sell this in a million years. It was just an old phone that was, kicking around in a drawer in the house somewhere. Took it out, looked in reasonably good condition, charged it up, tested it, all still working absolutely fine. So factory reset it and stuck it on eBay for 20 quid. I'm as surprised as you are that it sold. So for $24.94, made $18.42 after shipping and fees on that one. 24th of September 2019. This is the other sale where somebody actually contacted me and asked if they could pay, if they needed to pay any more in order to make sure it was securely packaged. And again, I said absolutely not, don't worry about it. Again, another customer from the US as well. So they've obviously had maybe a run of things getting broken being delivered to the US, I don't know. This is a ceramic Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Michelangelo money box from 1990-ish. Oh yeah, 1990 exactly. It says it in the title of the listing there. This one cost me £1, sold for £20.94, and I made £12.35 after shipping and fees there. Received positive feedback from the buyer, and again, that went on the global shipping program to the US. How did I package that one? I think that went in a cardboard tube, a really thick cardboard tube, if I remember rightly, filled with foam. Something along those sort of lines anyway, but again, just going that little bit further, conscious of the fact that it's going to the States. 25th of September. This is another jigsaw puzzle, 1,000-piece Chatsworth house jigsaw puzzle. This again is one of those items that you can be quite sure is going to go to an area that it's relevant to. Chatsworth House is a big stately home in Derbyshire. They film things like Pride and Prejudice, TV shows and films and stuff like that there. It's been the setting for so many period dramas and stuff like that. It's a very well-known stately home in the UK. This did go to someone in Derbyshire. Like I say, I think it would only ever go to somebody in the area or somebody who's maybe visited the hall and had a good memory of it or whatever. Cost £3 this one, sold for $19.94, made $9.91 after shipping and fees. 24th of September, again, ladies Regatta Dare to Be pink ski jacket. Now, as you know from seeing my previous videos, I'm quite into my outdoor gear. Coats, jackets, walking stuff, hiking stuff, things like that. It's kind of some of my bread and butter things in many respects. Regatta as a brand are more of an entry-level brand these days, unfortunately. They used to be a little bit more prestigious. but they kind of started to get into a lot of different markets and stuff like that, and it's kind of watered them down a little bit as a brand. They've also got Craghopper as well, who are under the same, they're part of the same company as Regatta, and Craghopper are kind of the slightly better, the sort of more mid-range stuff that are made by the same company. So I think they kind of took Regatta down a little bit for that reason too. Dare to Be, in terms of where that fits into Regatta, that's Regatta's ski wear kind of arm. So the Dare to Be stuff is a little bit better, I personally feel, than Regatta branded outdoor wear, but maybe not quite as good as the Craghopper stuff. So it kind of sits somewhere in the middle. What you'll find with the Dare to Be stuff, and the reason that I don't mind stocking the Dare to Be stuff, where generally speaking I don't buy Regatta, simply because people can buy it so cheaply new that I almost think, why would they worry about buying it secondhand? That's not to say, you know, it doesn't sell. I'm sure it does, but I've just never really kind of dipped my toe in selling any Regatta stuff. The reason I go for the Dare to Be stuff, though, specifically, is because it's generally a lot more stylish. There's kind of a bit more, it's a little bit trendier in terms of the styling of it all, and the little features and things like that. It's kind of pitched a little bit more towards younger people, so it has the edge in style rather than necessarily in the kind of technical aspect of it or the performance aspect of it. So this one cost £5, sold for £34.94, made a profit of £20.44 on that one after shipping and fees, and received positive feedback from the buyer. 26th of September, the mini tarot card kit. I quite like selling tarot cards. I'll always pick up an interesting looking set, or you know, a particularly old or nice looking sets, things like that. I've done some really high value tarot cards in the past. I actually got a set that were a replica of a sort of 13th century set or something like that. I think it was a Solabusca tarot, and that sold for over £100. That was a really, really nice set of tarot cards. So I do look out for tarot cards, and I do reasonably well every time I sell a deck. This one was just a little cheapy deck. This is $149 cost price. Tiny little cards, sort of couple of inches square cards, but you know, a little novelty deck, something that kind of gets people's interest going in these things if they like this sort of thing. So this one cost $149, sold for $14.94 and made $6.98 after shipping and fees there. 28th of September. So this again, these next couple of sales again are kind of response to the fact that we were needing money in, and this came after the camera incident and the kind of stolen wallet incident and losing the money from that as well. So Joe decided that she'd get a few of a sort of better higher end Disney ornaments and stuff like that, and sell a few of those. She's been selling a lot of her own stuff anyway to kind of put into new projects. She's doing a lot of art resin stuff, and I'll put a link to her Etsy shop in the description down below as well, because I had a couple of conversations in my comments with some of my viewers interested in what she does. So I'll put that in the description down below as well. But she took these couple of ornaments out and said, look, we'll get these up on eBay and hopefully they'll sell quite quickly, and they'll kind of try and get us back on track a little bit money-wise, which I really, really appreciate her doing. So this one was a Royal Dalton ceramic Disney Tinkerbell figure. Didn't have the box or anything for it because never anticipated selling it, to be quite honest. So there's no cost price against this one. It was one that's... So with these items that come up as owned, the reason they don't have a cost price against them, I've had this asked in a comment before. Somebody said that an owned item always has a cost against it. And that is very true if you're dealing with it purely on a personal basis. An owned item will always have a cost against it if you're selling your own item on your own basis. But what I'm selling as is a business. So items that I personally own are given to the business free of charge for the business to sell, and then the profit becomes the business's profit. So it's not, you know, there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. It's not in any way questionable from a sort of tax perspective or anything like that. It's very much, if you think about it, how charity shops work. They get items donated to them at no cost, and then they sell them, and then the profit goes to the charity. Yeah, basically the same deal. So that's why my owned items never have any cost against them. Certain other items that come up are free, and they're generally items that have come in such a big bundle of stuff that I can't apportion a cost to it. So I'll always tell you about these things as and when they arise, but that's just a little explanation of why none of my owned items ever have a cost against them, because they're given to the business free of charge. So this one was sold for £45.94, made £35.12 after shipping and fees on that one. It went on global shipping program to France and had positive feedback from the buyer, again with nice comments about how it was all packaged and everything. And I think when I translated this feedback from French, I think she said she'd never seen a parcel so well packaged, I think was the actual translation that came out of it. So yeah, I was quite happy with that one. 28th of September still. This is another one of Joe's Disney Tinkerbell ornaments. This is the Sitting Pretty Disney Traditions. You've seen a few Disney Traditions sold on the channel before, both ones that we've owned and ones that we've bought. They're in this kind of cast resin, but it's in a carved wood style, so they're very distinctive. They are quite popular. You'll generally always sell them. Obviously, as with anything ornaments-wise like this, the more knowledge you have on them, the better, because certain ones are rare and certain ones are, you know, command particularly high prices. This one is just kind of a general, you know, middle of the road, quite a few of them around, and sold for £25.94. Made £17.72 after shipping and fees. Again, went on global shipping to France and received positive feedback from that buyer too. 29th of September, you might remember, I can't remember how long ago it was now, and because my video upload schedule's so sporadic as well, I couldn't even sort of contemplate it in my mind, but you might remember a haul video from a while back where I picked up these Buzz controllers, and I said I'd kind of dropped a bit of a clanger by picking up the wrong ones because they're the wired ones rather than the wireless ones. Well, rather than selling them on their own, I waited until I could get hold of a game to bundle them with. So I managed to get hold of the Buzz game there as well. So it just kind of added a bit of value to the bundle and made... It took it from being an item that would have probably just about broken even to being something that actually made some money. The other good thing about this was it was collected by the buyer. It was a local buyer who came and picked it up, so there was no postage aspect on that one either to deduct from any of the fees. So that cost £4 in total altogether. I think the controllers were £3, the game was £1. Sold for £14.99, made £8.82 just after eBay fees and the like on that one, and had positive feedback from the buyer. Salomon Thermalite ski gloves. So Salomon are part of the Adidas empire. Again, they're a ski wear brand as much as anything. These are a pair of gloves that were mine. They were my dog walking gloves for a little while. And I've gone on to just something a little bit thinner and a little bit sort of easier to manoeuvre. But they're still a very good pair of ski gloves there as well, with like a neoprene cuff on them so that they kind of fit really, really snug. So these were an owned item, sold for £22.94 and made £16.07 after shipping and fees on those. And 30th of September, I think this may be the last item for September, is the Panasonic KXF 2700E phone fax machine. This was a boxed item, picked up from a car boot, paid £10 for it. It was boxed, had all the cables and everything, had about half a roll of paper in it as well, so it just needed a good clean up and a test, and it was, you know, it was perfect working order, spot on, like I say, had the original box and everything. So that one sold for £71.94, including the postage, and after shipping and fees, that made £33.74. People will ask, why are people still using fax machines in this day and age? I used to work in the motor trade, selling used cars and things like that. This is just one example, and quite a lot of the time with a lot of the finance companies that we used to deal with, we would fax over applications. This is even as late as sort of 2015, 2016. We were still using fax machines to fax applications for finance to finance companies and stuff like that. And this wasn't just at small independent, you know, garages either. There were big garages as well that were doing the same thing. So fax machines are still very much used there, and I believe that the NHS as well, the UK National Health Service, they're still a very big users of fax machines, one of the biggest users of fax machines in the world, I want to say still. I know it's certainly the case with pagers. They are the biggest organisation in the world still using pagers. And it's probably the case with fax machines as well, I would imagine. So yeah, paid a tenner, sold for £71.94, made £33.74 after shipping and fees there. Tell a lie, this is the last one. This is the Sony NPF 82E USB 3.5-inch floppy drive. There's probably people out there that don't know what a 3.5-inch floppy disk is. It was basically pre-CD media. They held 1.44 megabytes of information. You could get bigger ones, but not a great deal bigger. And yeah, if you ever look at a save icon on pretty much any sort of Word, Microsoft Office, anything like that, the save icon is always a picture of a little floppy disk. So that's what used to go in them. This one's made by Sony, and you know my opinions of Sony. Sony are fantastic, and I'll sell pretty much anything that I can of theirs. So this one cost £5, bit high to be honest with you. Probably wouldn't have paid that. Well, I definitely wouldn't pay that again, but probably wouldn't have paid that if I had been thinking at the time either. Sold for £19.94, went on global shipping to France again, and was made £8.76 after shipping and fees on that one. So that's the end of September's list. So the total cost of items for September, all of the items that you've just seen in this video, plus all of the items that are in part 1 of the video, which is a separate video uploaded to the channel, cost $157.66. The total sale price, including all the postage charges and everything, that was $1,384.48, and it left a total profit for September of $805.61, which is really low. It's a good amount of money to be making if you've got another source of income. Don't get me wrong, but I haven't at the moment. I do this full time, so September was a particularly bad month for me personally. There were a lot of we ate a lot of kind of instant noodles and stuff like that in September and October. So you know, you have to, if you're doing this full time and you're in a position where one month you don't make the money that you're used to or that you think you should be making. You've got to be able to sort of adapt your lifestyle a little bit to accommodate that. Especially, you know, it'd be very easy to turn around and say, oh yeah, no, I can't do what I want to do anymore, so sack the reselling off, I'll go back out and get a job. But that's not what I want to do. I want to persevere with reselling. So, and Joe's fully behind me on this one as well. So rather than sort of say, okay, reselling didn't work out this month, I'll go and get a part-time job, it was a case of, right, we'll not have anything, you know, we won't go to Domino's this month, we won't have any particularly decent food or anything this month. You know, we have to cut back in other areas. If you're not making money, you need to be saving money. And I think that's actually a tip that I picked up very early on from Resale Rabbit as well, in some of his videos, in some of his early videos. I think he touches on that a little bit. It's talking about if you can't be making money, be saving money. So the total profit there was $805.61. Now the total cost of sales, if you like, so this is the cost of the items plus the total cost of the postage, plus the total PayPal fees, plus the total eBay fees. The total cost of sales there was $578.87. So if you take that $578.87 figure off the total sale price figure, that's when you're left with a profit there, and that's how I work my profit out. So yeah, low month there, but let us move on to October. As I say, the first couple of weeks in October were particularly slow as well, but October did pick up towards the end, and I think there's a few decent sales in here towards the end as well. So we'll start on the 1st of October. This is the Technics SA-GX670 stereo receiver amp. Technics, awesome audio brand, not by any means the top end of the top end, but they are sort of very well respected the world over, particularly their stuff from sort of the mid-90s and earlier, because that was still made in Japan, and a lot of the Japanese made stuff is very well regarded amongst audiophiles and people that are kind of really into their home audio and things like that. So this one cost £15, sold for $68.94 and made $23.76 after shipping and fees on that one. It did go on global shipping to Denmark, and it weighed about 12 kilos, so hence you know, by the time I say it sold for $68.94, well, the postage comes off that straight away, so it was like 24 quid came off that straight away for the postage there. Obviously, the buyer paid the postage, but they gave me that figure, and I have to take the post off that. So made $23.76 on that one altogether after shipping and fees. And again, that was a big job to kind of package it all up and everything as well. I was conscious of the fact that I'd never sent a parcel to Denmark before. I wasn't sure what their handling was like or anything at the other end. So I really wanted to make sure that was packaged well and arrived safely. And I haven't heard anything to say that it hasn't arrived safely, so no news is good news in that respect. 1st of October again, Mighty Boosh Future Sailors Live DVD. This was a brand new and sealed DVD, and it was a special edition which had a book that accompanied it as well, like a paperback book. The Mighty Boosh UK comedy series and stage show, things like that. Noel Fielding and Julian Barrett. It's kind of surreal, sort of off-the-wall kind of humour, but a little bit clever as well in some points. It's, if you've never seen it and you're kind of in the, if you like the sort of Monty Python type humour, yeah, it's well worth a watch. It is pretty entertaining. It's just well up my street, actually, I must admit. So this one cost 50p, sold for £28.94, and after shipping and fees made £20.52 on that one. Another one from the 1st of October. So the 1st of October started out pretty well, considering, but it still wasn't a busy couple of weeks, as you'll see as we go along. This is the Laurel and Hardy DVD collection box set. This was 21 DVDs. Loads of different Laurel and Hardy productions, sort of films, shorts, lost kind of video and stuff like that as well. It is pretty much the ultimate Laurel and Hardy collection, to be fair, as the name would suggest. This was another item that I owned, so it was given to the business at no cost, and it sold for £44.99, made £35.07 after shipping and fees on that one, and received positive feedback from the buyer. 2nd of October, this is another Technics unit. This is the SL PG440A CD player. Did have the remote with this one, and you know how I feel about remotes as well. People always need remotes. I sell a lot of loose remotes, but also if you're selling something like this and it has the remote with it, it's going to add, you know, exponential value to the item rather than just being, you know, something that people actually have to physically walk up and touch. It wasn't in amazing condition, this particular one. All working order and everything, no problem at all there. But it looked like it had maybe been in a pub, perhaps, or something like that, because there was a lot of scratching on the top of it, on the top of the unit there. And also there's a volume knob here for the headphone input, and the actual plastic shell of that knob had broken off. The knob was still there, you could still use it, but the actual sort of plastic bit had come off. Not normally something that I would have picked up on its own, but I got it in a bundle with the other piece that you've just seen, the other Technics item that you've just seen, and it cost me 30 quid for the two. So hence this was another £15 item. This one sold for £48.94 and made £12.24 after shipping and fees on that one. 2nd of October 2019 still, FC UK Copper aftershave. These were two used bottles, one about half full, one with about 90% of the contents still in it. Just stuff that I've been given for Christmas presents and stuff over the years, and I don't really use anymore because I don't go out to work, so I don't sort of feel the need to have a bit of aftershave on or anything like that. You know, I'm not there to sort of try and impress customers face to face anymore, so I don't, you know, worry. Don't get me wrong, I've not let my personal hygiene go by the wayside or anything like that. I still take a shower every day, but I don't, you know, feel the need to kind of spritz myself with things like this. So hence, sold it. Sold these two for £19.94, made £12.91 after shipping and fees on those. 2nd of October again. This is the Vamu Dineret guitar cushion. Idea of this is, you see it's curved at the bottom there, so the curved side will sit on your knee. This curve underneath sits across your knee, and then this curve here corresponds to the curve in the body of the guitar. So for people playing guitar for long periods of time, or people learning guitar, or things like that, it gives a load of extra support to them. So this cost £5. I did look this up at the time that I bought it, because otherwise I wouldn't have just bought a cushion for £5. I thought I'll have a quick look at this because it was in really good condition, never been used by the looks of things or anything like that. So I thought, okay, if the charity shop want a £5 for it, then it must be something. So I went looking on their website. Their web address was on the bag here and stuff like that, and they're around about 30 quid. So that's what I sold it for. So it sold for £34.94 altogether. Made £20.86 after shipping and fees on that one. 4th of October, so these were a few bits and pieces of Joe's. She actually bought a lot of these last year. They're little cross-stitch kits. She was making cards and stuff, Christmas cards, Easter cards and things like that with little cross-stitch motifs on them. So any that she's got left over, they've gone online. So the Hobby Crafts, these are the spring-themed cross-stitch kits, and this buyer bought 1, 2, 3, 4 of them from us. These were owned, so they were given to the business again with no charge. Sold for £11.96 altogether and made £7.07 after shipping and fees. Not a big sale, but easy to package, easy to send out and things like that. Positive feedback as well. 5th of October, 1985 edition of Risk board game. This was complete, had all of the pieces, the board was immaculate, it had the instruction manuals, it had the little sort of promotional cards that come ahead of the gaming cards, so sort of the ones that tell you about what other Parker Brothers games were out at the time and stuff like that. It was pretty much like as good as a new copy would be, but obviously still being a pre-owned second-hand one. Don't deal in a huge number of board games, to be perfectly honest with you. I did early on because I was watching a lot of YouTubers saying, oh, board games this, board games that. And yeah, you can make some reasonable money on them, but to be honest with you, they take up a reasonable amount of space. Something like a game of Risk like this has hundreds of pieces that you need to count and check. So I tend to try and sort of steer more towards new board games if I'm going to, or if I'm going to get older ones, things that I know are going to be worth reasonable money. This was a bit of old stock. I probably wouldn't pick up an old game of Risk again necessarily, but if I saw something like, say, a game of Hero Quest or Settlers of Catan or something like that, there's some really high value board games out there that it does pay to kind of keep in the back of your mind. But certainly, you know, you'll see people saying, oh, you know, board games, it's not as simple as just buy board games and you can sell them and make a load of money on them. There's a lot of sort of subtleties and stuff like that to it. And yeah, I have a relationship with board games very much like I have with loose Lego. It's kind of a, you know, love-hate relationship in that sense. This one, though, did only cost £2.75, sold for £23.94, did have it listed for quite a while, and made £13.39 after shipping and fees on this one. 6th of October, this is the only ever open Jigsaw I've sold. And I say it was open, the outer box was open, and the pieces were still sealed in a bag inside. So I knew it was complete. From that sense. This is a 1,000-piece Fabio Vittori jigsaw puzzle. I'd never heard of the artist before, so I went looking into him. He does a lot of cartoons and things like that, and this the scene on this particular jigsaw when it was complete was sort of little cartoon ants in like a marketplace type scene. And there was a poster in there as well, like a big poster of the same picture. So these were kind of I guess a reasonably sort of bespoke jigsaw potentially. Cost $2.49. This one sold for $17.94. Made $8.61 after shipping and fees. Went on the global shipping program to Germany and had positive feedback from that buyer as well. So it wasn't a dead, you know, glamorous sale or anything like that, or a particularly high value one, but it was a little bit of something that I think had this been any other jigsaw and it had an open box, would it have sold as quickly? I don't know. Would it have sold at all? Maybe not. But just because this is something a little bit different, a little bit special, and obviously if people are familiar with the artist, they're going to be looking out for them. So that was that one. 6th of October again, Hutton multi-aperture picture frame. These actually were bought from, I think these were bought from the range on offer. Didn't actually buy them specifically to be a retail arbitrage item, but they didn't work for what I wanted them for. So again, they got transferred to the business, but because I had the receipt for that one, the receipt went in the expenses. The business paid me personally back for them, and then they became a business expense rather than a personal expense. So these cost $4.50, sold for $18.94, made £5.10 after shipping and fees. Not a big profit again, but you know, just something keeps things ticking over. Fern Gully 1 and 2 DVD double feature, new and sealed DVD, cost $1.49, sold for $7.94 and made $2.63 after shipping and fees. So although the volume of sales was starting to increase a little bit in early October, the value wasn't there, and the profit margin wasn't there either. So yeah, you see a few more sales coming through, but I'm still not necessarily making the money at this point. 7th of October. This is a ladies' Marks & Spencer's Peruna corduroy coat. I've been dabbling a little bit in Peruna. It's not something that I've necessarily always gone out of my way to look for, because I always feel like if I'm selling clothing, I want to be selling higher end stuff and designer stuff and things like that. But the Peruna stuff's pretty popular. And the bits and pieces of Peruna I have had and stocked and listed, they pick up a lot of watches. It's much like Superdry. I've spoken about Superdry before. It picks up a lot of watches. It gets a lot of attention. Certainly for other items in your store as well. So well worth stocking for that reason. Doesn't command as high a value as some of the designer stuff, certainly, but it was a quicker sale. Sold for £5, cost £5, sold for £34.94, and made £20 after shipping and fees on that one. This is another one of my sort of favourite items, something that I'm kind of learning a lot more about just at the moment. You've seen me talk in previous videos about my rolls, razors and stuff like that, and that when I did one of my very first videos with that rolls razor in it, I kind of fell in love with the rolls razor, and from there started looking into other razors and different safety razors and stuff like that. You know, I keep a beard. I don't really shave myself, so it's not like it's something that I'm interested in to use. It's just something that, for whatever reason, I can't even explain to you exactly why I've developed such an interest in razors and grooming products. But I have. And yeah, this was part of a little bundle that I picked up not long ago at a car boot. So this was a vintage Suplex 66 Bakelite safety razor, 1930s era production. There's a lot of good websites out there for reference on razors and stuff like that, so you can look these things up and get a reasonable amount of information on them. I sort of went from knowing nothing about razors to knowing enough to be able to sell them within about probably half an hour of just Googling different razors and stuff like that, and you know, people, there's whole archives of safety razors and Gillette razors. Gillette are a really popular one, of course, because they've been around for years and they're world famous. So picking up Gillette safety razors, if you ever get hold of one of those, it's quite easy to just sort of go onto Google, search out something like how to date a Gillette safety razor, and you'll find pages describing what type of razor it'll be, and you know, how to determine which model it is and which year and stuff like that. So there's plenty of information out there on them, and they are quite an interesting thing to deal in. This has also kind of got me interested in Bakelite as well. For those that don't know, Bakelite was an early kind of polymer plastic material, made from around about, oh, you don't quote me on this, but I think it was popular from around about the 20s to around about the 60s, maybe 70s. You can tell Bakelite, it usually has quite a distinctive smell to it, and it's quite a brittle plastic as well. It's very hard, but it's quite brittle. And it often has this brown kind of mottled colouring to it. Not always the case, you can get it coloured and stuff like that as well. But yeah, Bakelite's quite an interesting product in itself, and there's a lot of different things made out of Bakelite out there, different ornaments and stuff like that that you can pick up too. It's an interesting area, it's quite collectible. So this one, the Suplex 66 Bakelite razor, this one cost £1. Sold for $12.99 and made $7.72 after shipping and fees on that one, and also had positive feedback from the buyer. No sales then for the 9th or 10th of October, so we go to the 11th. These are the Nike Air Max Ultra 95, Nike Air Max 95 Ultra Essential trainers. I picked up a few pairs of trainers from a local charity shop literally the second they were brought in as a donation. It's a local charity shop that I've got a particularly good relationship with. A customer came in with a big sort of like a greengrocer's box full of shoes. They put it down in the donation pile for this particular charity shop, and I saw a pair of Nike high tops sticking out of it. So I went over and kind of just sort of had a little bit of a nosy and said, do you mind if I have a look in there? They said, no, not at all, go for it. So I had a look through, and there were a few pairs of Nike trainers in there. And I said, look, what do you want for these now? I'll pay for them straight away. You don't have to clean them up or anything like that then and put them on your shelf. I'll do all that. They said, you know, £5 for a pair. So I, yeah, naturally bit the hand off because they were all in really good condition as well. These were probably the worst of the bunch in terms of condition. And as you can see from the pictures, they still look pretty good. But for my personal standards, things like these little lace loops and stuff like that, they were a little bit discoloured and they were a little bit darker than, like, I like to sell trainers, and everything that I like to sell, I like it to be the best it can conceivably be. And if it's not the best it can be when I buy it, I want to know, can I make it the best it can conceivably be? If it's not the best it can conceivably be, and I can't make it the best it can conceivably be, I generally leave it there. So with these, when I got them home and I did give them the clean up, I wasn't 100% happy with them. But as I'd spent the time cleaning them up anyway, I didn't just want to kind of relegate them to my car boot sale stock. I thought, right, let's give them a try on eBay, and I'm glad I did. because it turns out this colourway, in terms of research, this colourway was unique to JD Sports in the UK, which are a big sort of sportswear retailer in the UK. So you couldn't get this colourway anywhere outside of the UK. So in that sense, it was quite a rare colourway, which I didn't know when I bought the shoes, but I found out on research. So it was kind of a happy little accident in that sense. That's a very Bob Ross expression, but I like it. So these cost a £5. They sold for £59.99, and I made £41.03 after shipping and fees on those. 13th of October. So we're starting to get towards the point now where things are kind of turning the corner, and we're starting to get the volume coming back in, but we're also starting to get the profit coming back in. So like I say, it was 2 weeks at the end of September and 2 weeks at the beginning of October that were just killer, but it's getting back on track now, happily. All credit to Joe for spotting these in a charity shop. I did not see them at all when we went in, and I did have a look at the ladies' shoes as well in this particular shop. Did not spot these. They just completely passed me by. So all credit to Joe, my wife, for spotting these. These were the ladies' Doc Martens Salome heels. Very typical Doc Marten shoe upper style, with the yellow stitching and everything as well. And the airwear style sole. Obviously, the difference with these is that they got a big wedge heel on them as well. These were awesome condition. They looked like they'd maybe been worn once or twice. You know, the toe box area here was only just starting to crease. There was absolutely no wear to the soles or anything like that. So they had to be bought, really. They cost £10.95, but Doc Martens are one of those brands that you will always make money on. Well, like with anything, if you're buying it at the right price, you'll always make money on anything. But Doc Martens, they have a really high profit potential in them if you're canny about how you buy them. So these were £10.95. They sold for £78.99. Made £49.44 after shipping and fees on those. They went on the global shipping program to Sweden, and they received positive feedback from the buyer on those as well. So they were a really good purchase, probably one of the better items in this video. GOG's Complete Collection DVD set. Never heard of this. It was in a big bundle of DVDs that I picked up, and it turned out to just be such a big bundle that it ended up not having a cost price against it. It's a claymation, sort of stop motion animation. I think it was made in Wales, so it's a British production in that sense. And it's kind of based around cavemen and stuff like that. It's pretty much just the spiel I got from reading the back of the box, to be honest with you. Like I say, I've never seen it, never heard of it. But it was free, and it sold for £22.94 and made £17.01 after shipping and fees. So there are still some good DVDs and stuff out there that you can pick up that, you can still make reasonable money on. Another one of Joe's Disney Traditions ornaments. This one's the Ariel Splash of Fun, Disney Little Mermaid. Sold for £25.94, made £18.09 after shipping and fees on that one. Again, like I say, it's that Disney Traditions cast resin that resembles the carved wood style. Sticking with the 15th of October still, we've got the Sharp CS01122 electronic desk calculator. This wasn't a printing calculator, this is just a desktop 10-digit calculator with the old style LED readout, so it's kind of really 70s, 80s retro style to it. Really bright LED screen that feels like it's going to burn your eyes out if you used it in the dark or something. This one cost £4, sold for £21.94, made £10.37 after shipping and fees. Another really cool item, and another item that I'm getting into sort of looking up and kind of building a little bit of knowledge on, much like the razors. Something that I kind of fell into by accident were these vintage briefcases. I know people can do very well with vintage luggage and vintage suitcases and stuff like that as well, but there's something about briefcases that really appeals to me. Never been in a position where I've had to use one in my life or any of my previous work or anything like that, so I don't have any kind of natural draw to briefcases, but there's something about them from a reselling perspective that really appeals to me. This was a vintage Ecolac briefcase. This one did have both of the keys with it as well, and they were the original keys because they were stamped with the Ecolac name. Internally, it was absolutely immaculate. This really looked like it had barely ever had any use whatsoever. Very reminiscent of the kind of you forgot your briefcase scene in Falling Down in Michael Douglas, if you've seen that film. This one cost $1.99, so this was an absolute bargain, really. Sold for $41.94 and made $20.26 after shipping and fees on that one. So yeah, I'm loving these old briefcases at the moment. A little remote sale here. This was the 16th of October. Sony RM836 old CRT TV remote. Cost 30p this one. Sold for £9.94, made £4.09 after shipping and fees, and had positive feedback from the buyer. I've spoken before, reasonable length about remotes. They're a very good item in terms of how cheap they are, and how cheaply you can pick them up, and the profit potential in them. The downside to them is people will only ever buy them when they need them. So you kind of have to. I've got a good stockpile of quality remotes that I know will sell. But they've not sold yet. They're remotes that they've got a good sales history and things like that, but you're only ever going to sell them when people need them. So that's kind of the drawback to remotes, but they are worth selling. 16th of October, men's DKNY hooded anorak olive green coat. This one cost £10, sold for £36.94. And made a total profit of £16.76 after shipping and fees on that one. Something that I bought very, very early on, to be honest with you, this one. I wouldn't have necessarily paid a tenner for a coat like this now, but at the time it seemed like a good purchase. Sat on it for quite a while. Not quite a year, I wouldn't say, but probably 8 to 9 months. I've probably had that one in stock. 17th of October again. This is another one of Joe's kind of collectibles. These were ones actually that she was already getting rid of, to be fair. These weren't ones that kind of were sold out of the emergency state that we were in. These were ones that she was already selling for, like I say, to pay for her resin materials and stuff like that. So this was the Meter U Tatty Teddy money box. Again, it's like a cast resin piece. It's not one of the soft toys, obviously. So no cost price against this one. Sold for £20.94, made £13.59 after shipping and fees, and had positive feedback from the buyer on that one. 18th of October, this was a rare Disney Store Halloween Eeyore plush. You can see quite a few of these Eeyore plushes around. If you look up Disney Halloween Eeyore, you'll see a lot of different variations of it. And to be quite honest with you now, off the top of my own head, I can't remember the specific thing about this one that makes it rare. But again, at the time I used Joe's knowledge, because she's much more knowledgeable than me about the Disney collectibles. And I've said before, you don't always have to be an expert in everything as long as you know one. And I'm not saying Joe's an expert, but she certainly knows a lot more than I do, and as compared to me, I would class her as an expert. So yeah, it was a particularly rare configuration of toy, this one, and as such it was kind of one of the highest priced of these Disney Eeyore Halloween plushes. Cost £3.98, sold for £34.94, and made £21.70 after shipping and fees on that one. It went to Belgium on the global shipping program. I think that's my first parcel to Belgium, and we received positive feedback from that buyer as well. Happy days. 18th of October, this was the F.J. Thornton Vintage Confectioner's Scales. So they're called the Viking Scales. Did a bit of research on these. They were produced in the 1940s. So they are pretty old. They had a reasonable age to them. But again, in really good condition. I don't know whether they had been restored previously. They certainly had a lot of what looked to be the original paint on there. Missing a little brass plate that goes on the weight side, but it had the original brass weighing pan. So gave that a bit of a polish, just a light polish up with some brasso, just to kind of make it look a little bit brighter on the picture, and just polished up these brass appointments on the scales as well, again just to kind of give it a little bit of punch. Didn't want to go and sort of fully restore this or anything like that, just wanted to kind of do it a little bit of a sympathetic restoration so it looked better in the photographs. This cost £13. That was with the weights and everything as well, and sold for £83.94, made £45.16 after shipping and fees. So it is worth looking out for these vintage scales and vintage balancers and things like that. But when you do get one, do your research on it, know what you're selling, know what type of scale it is, know who it's made by, try and find out when it was made, what sort of era it was from, etc. I mean, that goes for everything, but certainly with things like this, from what I saw of other people's listings and other people's sold listings, the difference between getting a good price for them, like I feel I got, and the difference between getting, just sort of 10, 15 quid for them. Because if you go and look at sold listings for stuff like this, you'll see a lot of them sub 20 quid. and the difference between the listings of people that are getting 20 quid for them and the people that are getting sort of 70 quid for them is the amount of information that's in the listing and the amount that you can tell your buyer about this item before they click on it. So it's very important to kind of do your research. It's very important to do your research on everything, don't get me wrong. But certainly with stuff like this, it can very much determine the price. 18th of October, some more Hobbycraft cross-stitch kits. This buyer actually bought 11 of them from us, with the exception of that one that we put the cross through there. Weirdly, what happened with these, the buyer contacted us when they arrived. They were all brand new and sealed, not actually done any of these, which is why they went on sale. But the buyer got in touch with us when they arrived and said one of them was missing the material. They call it Ada or Ada. Was missing the actual material that you sew to. And another one had already been started. Somebody had actually done a few stitches on it already, which was weird because, like I say, we bought these brand new last year from Hobbycraft for Jo to sort of make Christmas cards and stuff out of, and she never got around to making them. So the only explanation we could logically think of is around this sort of time of year, Hobbycraft, the store, do a lot of workshops for kids and stuff like that to come in and try their hand at crafting. So maybe that particular kit had been used by one of the kids and then just put back in the envelope by, you know, lazy staff member or something like that. So we did refund 2 of the kits for the customer, let her keep them because there was no point in sending them back. I wouldn't have sold them again separately. So let her keep those and just refunded the 2 kits that were sort of, if you like, faulty. So they were owned, sold for $31.36 altogether. After shipping and fees, made $22.21 and got positive feedback from the buyer on those. Again, just on the basis of that customer service of saying, look, you know, apologies for the mess up on it. I can't really explain why there's a mess up on it, but we'll refund that and don't worry about sending them back. And, you know, after having that conversation, that was when the feedback came through. So I don't, you know, I do genuinely think that's what got that positive feedback in that instance. 19th of October, this was a Boosh PR50 personal pocket radio. A bit of an expensive piece, this. I don't know why I picked this up for 3 quid, or where I picked this up for 3 quid, but it was 3 quid nonetheless. Sold for $13.94 and made $4.83 after shipping and fees on that one. It went on the global shipping program to the Republic of Ireland. It made some money, I guess, so not really much more to say about that one. It did all right, but I wouldn't have bought it again for 3 quid. I don't know. I still, my mind is blown as to where I actually picked that up from because I have no idea. But it's on my spreadsheet, so there you go. 20th of October, men's super dry military canvas bomber coat. This was a really nice coat, actually, this one. Had 1 button missing from it, but it didn't really matter too much because the buttons were behind a flap anyway, and it was one of the bottom buttons. And there was a very slight little, what looked like a little bleach mark just on the elbow, but it wasn't even as big as your little fingernail, this little bleach mark. But did take a photo of it all the same, and, you know, close-up photo of it and declared it in the listing. Yeah, just a cool sort of retro military bomber style, you know, bomber pilot style coat. Probably something I would have worn myself, to be honest with you, had it fit me. But being an extra large, you know, in super dry, it's not extra large like what I would call, you know, normal humans like me. Normal humans, God, that's terrible. Anyway, yeah, cost £7. This one sold for $54.94. Went on the global shipping program to Hungary, my first sale to Hungary, and made $33.76 after shipping and fees on that one. Sticking with the 20th, this is a men's Barber Chelsea sports quilt jacket. Again, as I've said with a few different things now, and it does also very much apply with the Barber brand and a lot of brands of clothing as well, to be fair. The difference between getting good money for it and getting average money for it is how much you put into your listing. In the case of this coat as well, condition played very heavily into what I got for it in the end. It was absolutely outstanding condition. If I was the sort of person who used the brand new without tags function on eBay, I would have probably listed this as brand new without tags, but I would never list any, personally speaking. Don't have any, you know, gripe with anybody who does, but personally speaking, it doesn't feel right to me to list something as brand new without tags when it's not got the tags on it. And the thing to me that kind of determines whether something is brand new is, has it got the tags on it? So that's the way I look at it personally. So this did go up as a used item. It went on in a sale, this one as well. We did have a bit of a 15% off coats sale when the weather started turning bad. Thought try and get a few sort of shifted out of the door, and it did work for a couple of them. So I think this was originally up at £89.99. They do retail at £125 new. Had this one up at £89.99. It sold altogether for £76.49. Made £35.41 after shipping and fees on that one. I paid £25 for it, which again, I wouldn't just pay on anything, but knowing what it was and knowing the sort of money that it sold for, I wouldn't say I was necessarily happy to pay £25 for it, but I was much more comfortable paying £25 for that because of the condition of it. I was quite happy with that one in that sense. This again went on global shipping to Denmark, so it got quite a few orders out to Denmark this month, given that I think it was my first one that went to them as well, came this month, and then a few followed up. 22nd of October, this is the Cardio Sport Heart Safe T heart rate monitor. Yes, you absolutely can get all of the functions that these types of things perform in phone apps and wearable technology and stuff like that nowadays. Why do people still like stuff like this? Well, personally speaking, I would say there's a few reasons. Simplicity, for one. You don't need an app, you don't need to register it online, you don't need to, sync it to your phone or anything like that. You just put the band on your chest, and as long as it's got a battery in it, the watch will pick it up and it'll read your heart rate. The watch, obviously, as well, is usable as a watch and a stopwatch and all of those different functions. It is an older piece of tech. These were around in sort of the 90s, maybe early 2000s. Cardio Sport are a big name in them, certainly. They're probably one of the biggest names in them at the time. And as you say, you can get all of these things in an app now or in a bit of wearable technology. But the other reason I think people go for stuff like this, like I say, the simplicity is one, but the privacy is another. Most of the things that you buy like this that track your fitness, track your health, they also track your movements. They track where you've been, on the map and stuff like that. And not everybody is comfortable with that kind of data recording from apps that you've not bought for that purpose, and I don't blame them. So yeah, that's why these sort of things I think are popular. Picked it up at a car boot. This one cost a £5. The watch wasn't working at the time, but because it was it just seemed brand new. This again was one of those items that it was in the box and you open the box up and everything just looked like it had never been out of there. The watch wasn't working, but again, I have a background in the jewellery trade, so just being able to change a watch battery in there wasn't a problem at all. Saying that, actually, it took me ages, this one. Yeah, it was a bit of a nightmare changing the battery in this, although I still knew how to do it thanks to my previous experience. So that took it from being something that was kind of, a bit of a punt at a £5 to being a viable item, because obviously then it was working. So this sold for £39.94, and after shipping and fees made £25.17 on that one. 22nd of October, Rocket Dog floral patterned heels. I think I've spoken about Rocket Dog in previous videos. They used to be a brand that commanded a lot more value than they do now. They still command some reasonable prices, but I think because certainly in the UK they've ended up a lot in TK Maxx and sort of discount retailers and things like that. I think it's kind of hurt the overall price of them on the market in general. However, certain pieces still command reasonable money, as I think this one shows. These cost £3.50. They sold for £34.94 and made £21.76 after shipping and fees, and that's another item that went on the global shipping programme to Denmark. 22nd of October again. This is another one of Joe's Tatty Teddy ornaments. The Tatty Teddy stuff was being sold anyway. As I say, these weren't sold because we were desperate for the cash at the time. These were sold just to kind of keep financing Joe's other little projects. This was the Tatty Teddy Love Bug ornament. Again, sort of just went off Joe, sort of followed Joe's lead on this one, to be honest with you. It's a relatively rare-ish one. It's not dead rare by any stretch, but it's produced in 2010, so it's an older one now from what is. They're a very different range these days. They do things like the Blue Nose Friends and stuff like that, which are a lot of different animals rather than just the bears. So these types of things, they do have a collector's market, and there are people that are very into them, but it's quite a small market, and they're still not massively high profit items necessarily. So this one sold for £24.94, made £17.23 after shipping and fees there. 23rd of October, the men's Ben Sherman waxed cotton coat. This is another one that sold on the sale, the 15% off coat sale. This I actually think Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this was the first item of clothing I ever bought to resell. So that shows you how long I've had that. I've been a full-time reseller for over a year now, and I was part-time for a few months prior to that. Can't remember whether this was purchased when I was part-time or when I was full-time, but it was certainly one of the first items of clothing that I bought to resell. So that's been with me for a good while. And I don't know why, because it's quite a nice coat in itself. It's just a sort of standard waxed jacket. Nothing dead special. But nothing, but not sort of drab or boring or anything either. Being Ben Sherman, it had quite a nice cut to it, a nice little bit of style. Anyway, sold now finally. Cost $7.99. Sold for $34.69. I made $17.23 after shipping and fees on that one. 23rd still, Garmin Nuvi GPS accessory pack. Did actually originally have a Garmin Nuvi sat nav that went with this and sold with this, but unfortunately quite soon after the buyer received it, it developed a major fault where it wasn't powering up and it wasn't holding any charge. So that was refunded and sent back, and then I just sold the actual accessory pack separately. So it worked out that the accessory pack on its own had a cost of a £5. It sold for £21.94, made £10.68 after shipping and fees, and got positive feedback from the buyer on that one. 23rd, another vintage briefcase. Like I say, I've been kind of sort of dipping my toe in these, getting quite interested in them. This one was a Samsonite. Samsonite are, if you don't know luggage or anything like that, or these types of cases, Samsonite are a good brand to look out for. Generally command pretty good prices across the board, to be honest with you. This again was that sort of 70s style textured plastic with the polished aluminium and the chrome. So it's a very slimline briefcase as well, this one. It was a bit different in that sense. I've never seen one that's so sort of skinny as this one. This one cost a £5, sold for £29.99. It was picked up, so there was no postage, and it made £20.22 after shipping and fees. This was actually went to someone from Media City in Salford, so this is going to be in some sort of TV show or some sort of prop in some sort of production somewhere, I would imagine, because it was going... it was care of a particular production company, the name of which I forget now. 24th then, we've got the JVC HR J835EK VCR. Just a kind of bog standard entry-level VCR, to be honest with you. Nothing dead special about this one. Didn't have the remote or anything with it either, but it was a £6 charity shop pickup, and I thought a VCR at £6. Coming from a charity shop, certainly in the UK, this might not be the same across the world, but all of the charity shops in the UK now tend to sort of electronically test their items first for electrical safety, and part of that involves powering them up. So if you're picking these things up from charity shops in the UK, you can generally be fairly certain that they work, certainly that they power up. So you kind of have to do a function test on them and just make sure all of the little sort of features and stuff work. That's the only kind of caveat there, but you can always be assured that it'll at least power up. So $5.99, yeah, quite happy paying that for it. Sold for $39.94, made $15.51 after shipping and fees. 24th, this again is one of Joe's sort of moved through few different crafts and stuff like that over the years, and at one point, like I say, she was making cards, which is where all the cross-stitch kits have come from, and as part of the stuff that she was making cards, she had a paper cutting machine, which you'll see in a moment. These are some of the mats that go in the paper cutting machine and hold the paper down, so that the machine can actually cut out the design, and they were big, sort of bigger than the normal size mat that comes with the machine, put it that way. There you go, 12 inches by 24 inches, so they were a big old mat. These sold for $19.99, no cost price again because they were owned, and made $10.37 after shipping and fees on that one. This one then is the actual paper cutting machine itself. This is the Cricut Explore paper cutting and design studio. There are newer versions of this machine out now, but they are considerably more expensive than this. This was owned by Joe from new, so absolutely know that everything was there in it, and it was perfect working order. There was, it was as good as new, really, because Joe really looks after stuff when she's got it. Hence all the box and all the inserts and everything on the box. I'm very much a kind of, if I've got something that I want and I'm happy with it, I throw all the packaging away. Joe's the other way. She keeps everything and keeps it all really sort of pristine. So that plays well for things like this when you're selling it, because obviously you can kind of ask for a good price on there. So this one sold for $196.94 altogether. and made 146.07 after shipping and fees, which kind of really helped dig us out of the hole that we'd gotten into with the sort of quiet time and then losing the camera money and stuff like that as well. So that was a big help there in that one. I'll definitely have to make it up to Joe down the line. 24th of October, this is another pair of shoes. This was actually the pair of shoes that I spoke about before that I saw sticking out of a box that somebody had donated at a charity shop. These are the Nike ACG Looping-Neck Flyknit trainer boots. I tried these on myself actually. I toyed with having them because I love olive green and olive green drab colour. It's just kind of, there's something about it. But yeah, the style didn't work for me at all. There is a little bit of fading just on the green dyeing. Just on the top here, I don't know if it picks up on the camera, but it looks like where somebody's pants leg had been, perhaps over there, it's just sort of taken the green off. It's not worn away the leather or anything, but it had just taken the green away slightly. So again, as with anything that's got a slight imperfection in it, that's always declared and described in my listings so people really know what they're getting. These cost £5, sold for £49.94. And made $32.66 after shipping and fees. Also had positive feedback from the buyer on those. Aside from that little bit of fading just on the green there, they were absolutely immaculate condition. I must admit, the tread and everything on them was they looked like they maybe had been worn once or twice, if that. So they were a nice little buy as well. 25th of October, ladies, Merrell Duet Sport leather shoes. Merrell is a brand that I've spoken about before. They're not massively well known in the UK, but they certainly are quite well known in the US. In fact, shout out to Mariah Manatee Jack. I know she sells quite a few Merrells and stuff like that. That's something that she sells quite a few bits and pieces of. I think she sells them too cheap personally, but that's just my opinion. Yeah, so these cost a £5. They sold for £44.94, and after shipping and fees, made £28.95 on those. Again, they were in really, really good condition. It maybe doesn't show on the camera, but they were like a weathered finish. So it was, the colourway I think was called Amethyst. And what that was, the base leather was like a very, very dark brown to black, and then it had this sort of light purple distressed finish put over it, so it kind of gives that two-tone effect. So they kind of had a distressed, weathered look to them, even though they were in very good condition otherwise. 25th of October, Samsung Gear VR with controller. Had a pretty good experience of selling one of these a little while ago, which again, thanks to Jo for, because she saw one of her friends was selling it on Facebook. She picked it up off Facebook, and we did quite well with it. So I saw this one in a charity shop not long ago at all. $24.95. It's quite big money, but I'm happy to pay up to that for them. If I ever see this particular model of Gear VR, which has the little hand controller and stuff like that in there, I'll pay up to 25 quid for them, because I know from previous experience I've sold them for sort of 70 quid, 75 quid in this case. So this one sold for £74.94, made £39.02 after shipping and fees on that one, and definitely, you know, something that I would recommend looking out for, because I've sold two. This is the second one of these that I've sold now. They've both sold within a week of being listed. They selling, from my experience anyway, they sell incredibly quickly. There's a little preview of the next item, because I just clicked the mouse, but from my experience, the VR headsets, they sell quite quickly. Both of the ones that I've listed have sold within the week, and they've both made pretty good profit. So I'll always look out on the branded ones, certainly like your Samsung and Oculus and stuff like that. Definitely look out for those, but leave the kind of off-brand ones behind, because they are just worth nothing, basically. So 26th of October, vintage backgammon chess and checkers set. This was a really cool item, which I'd had for a little while, not a huge amount of time certainly, but a few months definitely. And I was quite surprised that I'd had it for as long as I had. Although to be fair, I had it at reasonable money, I guess, so that could have been a factor. But it had like about 18 watches on it for quite a long time, and I'd sent offers to these watches. It had been in the sale. It had been in a toys and games sale that we did at one point as well. I think I'd even reduced the price previously on it as well. So I think I had it up at about 75 quid initially, and then over time it's been whittled down to 70 quid. And then we'd sent offers out against the lower price. And then, like I say, it had been in a sale as well against the lower price, and never sold. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, it just sells for the $69.99 with no offers sent out or anything like that. So eBay is a mystery sometimes. you know, things that you think will sell quickly don't, and things that you think you're going to be hanging on to for a while just go out of the door in a heartbeat. Ours is not the reason why. We just have to reap the benefits of these things where we can. This set, really, really nicely done. It was like a veneered. You can see the sort of, you get a feel for the geometric patterns and stuff on it there, and the kind of almost mandala-ish patterns that are on it. That was a veneer that was laid over the top of that one, and again, a bit like the other one that I was talking about before, really highly polished. There was no branding on this one. It wasn't a Yenigun one or anything like that, but it was really nice quality, really nicely made. The backgammon tokens as well were inlaid with like I don't think it was real mother of pearl. I think it was just sort of plastic styled to look like mother of pearl, but it was done in like a mosaic effect on them. So they were all clearly sort of hand inlaid and stuff like that. Really, really nicely done. It had a set of just bog standard stunt and chess pieces with it as well. So, you know, you could play chess, checkers, drafts, everything basically. Nice set. Surprised I had it for as long as I did. But cost a £5, sold for $74.94, made $55.56 after shipping and fees on that one. 26th of October, HP 364 ink cartridge pack. It's no secret amongst anybody who's even vaguely sort of interested in reselling or has a vague sort of knowledge of it, that ink cartridges sell. I'm not sort of letting you in on any trade secrets here by saying, you know, if you've got the right ink cartridges, they will always sell. And they, you know, you can make reasonable money on them as well, especially if you're picking them up from car boots and charity shops and stuff like that. Again, much like remotes, they're one of those things that sell when people need them. And certainly with something like this HP 364 pack, the HP 364 ink isn't as popular. It isn't as widely used as some of the other, you know, some of the other stuff out there. So you have to kind of weigh that into consideration as well when it comes to these ink cartridges. They don't always sell instantly, but they do always sell, and they do generally make reasonable profit when they do. So this one cost £2, sold for $21.99, made $13.47 after shipping and fees, and received positive feedback from the buyer. 26th of October, this was another really cool item, another car boot pickup. I'm getting quite into my sort of vintage items now and retro items a little bit. I'm starting to sort of broaden my own personal horizons. I'm trying to sort of push my comfort zones and my boundaries a little bit to just kind of dip my toe in little, you know, different little avenues. I've been really quite inspired by Walter O'Neill Antiques Arena. I'll link his channel down below as well. I've mentioned him in previous videos. I've been really inspired by watching his videos and seeing the sort of things that he deals in. You know, don't get me wrong, I've got no aspirations to be an antiques dealer. You know, I'm not massively interested in things like ceramics or anything like that, but practical vintage stuff that you could still use today, you know, like the briefcases, for instance, the razors, the things that people can still use today, and this kind of falls into that as well. I've seen a lot of these advertised on eBay. Now, with this particular model, the brand label here is a holographic gold sticker, and I've seen people advertise these on eBay with that sticker on it as antique, and you just think, what? You know, do you really think, you know, in an era that we would class something as being antique, they were making holographic gold stickers? No, they very much weren't. So I went and did a lot of digging into the history of the company that manufactured these and the types of things that they manufactured. So Spong, little history lesson coming up for anybody who's interested. Spong is a British company. They were established, I forget the exact date, but they're a Victorian era company essentially, and they were very famous. What made them world famous were meat grinders and mincers. So you can kind of see the design of this. This is a coffee mill as opposed to a meat mincer, but you can kind of see how the meat mincer design inspired their coffee mill. They went through several sort of different changes of ownership over the years, and finally in the sort of 1980s, they were bought, along with a lot of their patents and stuff like that, they were bought by Salter, who make a lot of scales and kitchenware and stuff like that. and Salter carried on producing some of Spong's more iconic models, and the coffee mill was one of those. So that's what this is. This is not one of the antique originals, which you can still find out there. There's a couple of people that have got antique original Spong coffee mills on eBay, and they're absolutely beautiful. I mean, these are nice looking, don't get me wrong. This is a really nice looking piece, but the original ones, you can tell it's an original when even by looking at people's pictures, because it just screams Victorian manufacture, you know, and everything was massively over-made and over-engineered and over-produced, because they were just genuinely making stuff to last in those days. You can really see that in those. That's not to say this wasn't, though, to be fair. This was cast iron. It was absolutely rock solid, really nice sort of details. It had the, you know, like, tribute to sort of the original branding around the edge as well, and on the back it says Made in England, Spong number 1. They make a lot of different sizes in this as well, number 1 being the sort of the smallest, most popular one. I think there were a couple of smaller ones. I think there was like a 0 and a 00 maybe as well, but they're not, you don't see as many of those around. Of the ones that you'll see around, the number 1 is the smaller one, and I think they go up to about a number 4, which is, it must be like having a bucket to tip the beans in. But yeah, beans go in the top. You crank this handle. There's 2 big cast iron milling heads in this, and they just mill the beans, and it spits out in this little tray underneath, which you can take out and put in your espresso or your coffee machine, cafetiere, whatever. So this one cost £5 at a car boot, and as you can see, as well as the actual profit and everything that was made on this, it was a good learning experience for me, looking up another sort of Victorian company and finding out bits and pieces of information about them. Cost £5 this one, sold for £58.94, made £34.13 after shipping and fees, and received positive feedback from the buyer. 26th of October still. Men's Adidas F50 AstroTurf football boots. This was a charity shop that was across the road from me, and they had a big basket outside their store one day that said all men's shoes £2, so of course I dived straight in. Had a look through what I could get and got a few nice pairs of shoes out of there. This is probably the first pair that I've sold out of them. But for £2, you can't really go wrong with a pair of Adidas AstroTurf football boots, certainly in the condition that these were in. Again, very good condition, really. Not quite perfect. You know, I said before about shoes that I like to get them as best as they absolutely can be, and I knew that these probably weren't 100% to sort of my usual standard, but for £2, I kind of was happy to compromise. So these sold for £24.94, made £15.23 after shipping and fees. 27th of October then, this is a Suplex copper tea kettle, copper and brass. I picked up a bundle of these, and I've still got a couple left that I need to, you know, sort of polish and get looking, you know, ready for sale. I actually spoke to Walter O'Neill on one of his videos, a comment on one of his videos, to ask his opinion about whether he thought I should shine these up or leave them with the original patina on them. And he says, well, it's very much, you know, horses for courses, and the collectors like the patina, but people that are buying it for decorative purposes like them to look shiny and stuff like that. And because this one had a few dents and a few bits and a few marks and stuff on it here and there that polishing alone wouldn't get out, I sort of thought, okay, this is going to be more of the decorative market rather than the collector's market, so I was quite happy to shine it up. So again, sort of drawing on my jewellery trade experience and knowledge, this all got taken back through various different grades of abrasive paper and stuff like that to get it, you know, a really nice finish on it to begin with, and then I polished it up with a couple of different metal polishers just to get that high shine on there. I mean, it could have certainly gone further. I could have got it absolutely gleaming like a mirror, but I wanted to sort of leave it looking used because I didn't have any aspirations to paint the handle or anything like that, and the paint and stuff there you can see is worn on the handle. So what I've kind of went for was a decorative piece, and I actually said in the listing that this is being sold as decorative because there's really heavy scale inside it as well that I couldn't clean out. I gave it 3 or 4 runs with caustic soda in there and boiling water, and it got some of the scale out, but it just wouldn't shift it all. So I thought, yeah, it's not going to be suitable for anybody to use for actual tea making or anything like that. So this is definitely a decorative item. So yeah, what I went for in terms of the aesthetics was to make it look like it had been used, but looked like it was something that kind of people were still using. So it's an old piece, there's wear on the handle where people have been picking it up and down, but they care enough about it to give it a wipe over and, you know, keep it looking shiny and stuff like that. That's kind of the way I sort of justified it to myself in my head, if that kind of helps with any sort of how do my thought processes work type questions. Yeah, so this one cost £4. I think I bought a bundle of about 3 or 4 altogether, and they broke down to being about £4 each. Reasonable amount of work in them. Probably, I would say, an hour to an hour and a half's work in these tea kettles, getting them all trimmed up and polished. But sold for $34.94, made $21.50 after shipping and fees. So I don't mind doing a bit of work like that, not a problem at all. Like I say, I used to do that sort of thing for a living, just on a smaller scale with jewellery anyway. The only thing I didn't really enjoy about about doing this kind of sympathetic restoration on these things, copper is a very distinctive metal in terms of the way it smells, and when you're kind of rubbing it with abrasive paper and stuff like that and you're getting dust in the air, all you can taste for a couple of hours after you've done it is copper and stuff like that. So that's the only thing I don't really like about doing them, but otherwise it's quite enjoyable and reasonable profit as well. 27th of October, again, men's Dunlop safety fleece workwear hoodie. This one does exactly what it says on the tin, really. $6.99 it cost, sold for $38.94, made $21.25 after shipping and fees. Went on the global shipping program to Germany and received positive feedback from the buyer on that one. Sell quite a lot of workwear to Germany, to be quite honest. This is just a fact that's dawned on me right at this moment as I'm making the video. Any sort of quality bit of workwear clothing that I've had before, I've had things like Makita jackets and stuff like that. And I think I had a Husqvarna something at some point as well, possibly. Maybe not Husqvarna, but yeah, I've had some of the sort of higher-end workwear type pieces before. They've generally always sold to Germany, to be quite honest. Again, this could just be my experience, but I would definitely say if you're picking up bits of workwear and stuff like that, make sure you've got your GSP on. 27th of October, this was a retail arbitrage buy early on, and it's one of those things where it was never going to make a lot of money in the first place, and then I've had it that long that I've reduced the price down to a point where it's only just wiped its own face, to be quite honest. It's the Santoro Gorgeous Pencil Tins. They were bought on a final clearance at TK Maxx, bought 4 or 5 of them, sold most of them, to be fair, and made a couple of quid on most of them. But the last couple that are sticking around, I've just reduced right down to a point where I'm not losing on them. So it cost $2.99, sold for $8.99, made 20p on it. 28th of October, ladies' Lotus faux leather calf-length cowboy-type boots. These cost £3. They were a charity shop pickup. Sold for $34.94 and made $23.75 after shipping and fees. Lotus, I think, are a reasonable brand to be looking out for in ladies' footwear. They're not necessarily particularly high-end, but very much like sort of Clarks and things like that. They might not be the highest end, but they're very well made and they have a very sort of dedicated following. 28th of October, this was one of my own items. This was my old Fuji FinePix digital camera, 12 megapixel digital camera that I think I probably used about 3 or 4 times. I think I actually bought this when I first met Joe, so that would be 2008. So it's that sort of age, and I've probably used it 3 or 4 times in that space of time, to be honest with you. So it was complete, again, all boxed up and everything, something that I didn't actually throw the packaging away from or any of the extras away from, which is probably a good thing because I don't think they were selling for an awful lot otherwise. So this one went for $44.94, made $36.16 after shipping and fees, and received positive feedback from the buyer there on that one as well. 28th of October then, Dad's Army Home Guard style fancy dress costume. If you've not seen Dad's Army or aren't familiar with Dad's Army and you like your sort of classic British comedy, definitely check Dad's Army out. It's a personal favourite of mine anyway. And it's set in World War II around the Home Guard, who were the sort of domestic defence force, if you like, of the UK during the Second World War. And they were just made up of sort of people who had day jobs, but then did a bit of service in addition to that as well. So a bit like kind of... what do we call them these days? Reserves? Reserves, we call them these days. But in those days, it was kind of like you'd go and do your day job. Like, for instance, the lead character in this was a bank manager, and you'd go and do your day job for most of the time, and then, you know, it was your turn to kind of patrol the coast or patrol whatever bit of area that you were assigned to at a given point. But this is a comedy series kind of based around the whole sort of crazy world of these guys that are involved in this World War II situation. Yeah, it is funny. There's some classic moments in it. Don't panic, and all of them sort of catchphrases that come out of it as well. But yeah, this was a costume based on that TV series, essentially, or based on Second World War attire, I guess, but definitely based on the TV series when you look at it. Cost £8, sold for £29.94, made £13.18 after shipping and fees, and had positive feedback from the buyer on that one. Clearly, right time of the year for a fancy dress costume to sell as well. 28th of October, Canon Pixma 550XL black ink cartridge. Bought in a big bundle of stuff from a charity shop and didn't have a cost price against it again. I just sort of scooped up a load of stuff off the shelf and kind of got charged a price for the amount of stuff that I'd picked up, so this kind of was in there. This one had no cost against it, sold for $22.99 and made $16.35 after shipping and fees. 30th of October. This one was a bit of a clanger on my part because I didn't actually look at it when I picked it up. It's the Pink Panther Films DVD box set, and it's the original films with Peter Sellers, the original MGM franchise, rather than the new ones with Steve Martin, which are an absolute travesty. What I didn't notice at the time that I was actually picking this up in a charity shop is that it was a Region 1 DVD set, so that's US and Canada, so you would need either a Region 3 DVD player or a Region 1 DVD player to watch it in the UK. So I kind of thought I'd shot myself in the foot a little bit with that one. It cost $2.50, did sell for $19.94, sold to somebody in the UK, but they did say, I got in touch with them and just said, look, are you aware, you know, I've put it in the listing, but are you aware that this is a Region 1? I will happily cancel the transaction if you've ordered in error. And they said, no, you know, we're sending it to relatives in Canada. So happy days. That sort of turned that proverbial frown upside down, if you like. $2.50, sold for $19.94, made $10.64 after shipping and fees. Still on the 30th, this is the Weathermaster Barometer weather station. So this had the barometer, which kind of gives you an overall indication of the weather. It also had a thermometer, which obviously tells you the temperature, and it had a hygrometer in there as well, which tells you the relative humidity. There's a lot of these styles. Your traditional kind of, there is a name for the shape of it, and I forget off the top of my head what it is, but your traditional kind of, if you like, spoon-shaped barometers don't seem to command massive prices from what I've seen. But these types, where they're mounted on a board, and especially if you can get ones that are actual sort of maritime ones, there's a few out there that are listed on eBay at the moment, and they're like ship's barometers and ship's compasses and things like that mounted on a board like this, and they look absolutely stunning for one, but also they're commanding quite good prices. This is very reminiscent of that sort of style, although it is kind of a more modern piece. This is probably like a late 80s, early 90s, I would have thought, piece. This one cost £4, sold for $34.94, made $21.50 after shipping and fees on that one, and received positive feedback from the buyer as well. So it's a nice little piece, and something that I'll definitely sort of be doing a little bit more looking into as I'm kind of going more into that sort of practical vintage sort of area. 30th of October, ladies' high-tech St. Moritz snow boots. These are a waterproof, fur-lined walking boot or snow boot. Now, high-tech have a bit of a reputation in the UK, certainly with people of my kind of generation. The people that are in like your 30s and 40s now. If you think back to when you were at school, the kids who had the high-tech shoes were always the ones getting bullied. Certainly was the case in my school anyway, and I was usually the one with the high-tech shoes. But if you look into the sort of more technical end of what high-tech have to offer, so like their walking boots and things like that, they actually make incredible boots for the money. I would say probably some of the best value for money overall boots that you're going to buy in terms of sort of walking boots and things like that. Yes, you can spend a lot more money and get something a lot more high performance, but in terms of the price point that high-tech stuff's at, you're going to struggle to get anything better. than high-tech boots. So definitely, if you ever see high-tech walking boots out there or anything like that, I can't speak for high-tech shoes or high-tech trainers or anything along those sort of lines, because, like I say, that still very much has that association of being, you know, the kind of, if you like, poor kid at school used to have high-tech shoes. This is what it was like for me growing up. This is not my opinion now, don't get me wrong, but this is what it was like for me growing up, being the poor kid at school, having the high-tech shoes. You used to get sort of picked on by the other kids for it. So yeah, I can't speak for the shoes, I can't speak for the trainers, but certainly through my knowledge of outdoor gear and stuff like that from doing this and from previous jobs in the past, high-tech boots are definitely worth looking at. High-tech Magnum boots as well, they're actually used by a lot of police forces in the UK as well, the high-tech Magnum boots, so that kind of gives you a clue as to, you know, that they are made to a good standard. These are the St. Moritz snow boots. As I say, these sold really quickly. These sold within about a week of being listed, and again, down to the time of year, down to the style, and down to the condition, because the condition was outstanding on them. They cost $7.99, sold for $54.94, and made $33.87 after shipping and fees. Also had positive feedback from the buyer on those. Another retail arbitrage buy, this one. Retail arbitrage, as I always say in my videos, is buying items from retail stores and selling them for a profit. So you're buying brand new stuff and making a profit on it where you can. These were actually on offer at, was it Aldi or Lidl? It was one of the discount supermarkets, either Aldi or Lidl. I saw these at, and they were, I bought a few of them at $4.49 each. They're selling fairly consistently for $13.99. They're a vaporizer plug with a night light on there as well, so it's kind of just designed as like a relaxing, calmative thing for kids. It comes with some refill pads and stuff like that as well. You can sell these on eBay. They're not classed as a medicine or anything like that, so... Whereas Calpol, the actual medicine, like a kid's cough medicine, is regulated, and I think you have to possibly be licensed to sell that. Don't quote me on it, but I think you possibly have to be licensed to sell that on eBay. With these, they're not classed as a medication. So they cost $4.49, sold for $13.99, and after shipping and fees, make £3.11 on them. They're not a massive profit item, but like I say, they have been sort of dribbling out fairly consistently, so they're not too bad in that sense. 31st of October, my God, I've been dying to get my hands on some Bang & Olufsen stuff. To be perfectly honest with you, I think I miss a lot of Bang & Olufsen stuff because I never get up early enough for the car boots. And the people who really know it will have already bought it by the time I get there. Bang & Olufsen are a Danish brand. They make really, really high-end audio systems. I think they're actually... I don't know whether this has always been the case, but I'm pretty sure it's the case these days. I think they're either completely owned or partly owned by Philips these days. But they have a history of making some of the most fantastic quality audio equipment, home phones, things like that. And being a Scandinavian company as well, the emphasis is always very much on design and clean lines, clean design and stuff like that. So Bang & Olufsen, as well as being exceptional quality, also have really nice design to their products. I've not been lucky enough to find any Bang & Olufsen stuff in my time as a reseller as yet, but I'm always on the lookout for it. This was just a handset for the Biocom 6000 home telephone. It was in a box of remotes, actually, this, at a car boot. They'd obviously just thrown it in there thinking it was a remote control. So I picked it up, saw it said Bang & Olufsen on it, checked it all over. Couldn't test it because obviously it charges off the base station of the phone. So I had to sell it for parts, untested parts only. Cost me £1. I thought, yeah, I'm happy to take a chance on it for £1, even as a non-working thing. Did actually sell for $17.94 and made $11.04 after shipping and fees. So even something that I can't, you know, and I put in the listing to the buyer, I see no reason why it shouldn't work because there's no corrosion or anything like that I can see. But I can't test it to confirm that it definitely works. So, you know, it's spares or repairs, basically. And it did sell. So even something that doesn't work and would have otherwise, you know, potentially just been binned, cost £1, sold for $17.94 and made $11.04 after shipping and fees. So you can imagine the sort of price that their working stuff commands. If you just go onto eBay and just out of interest put Bang & Olufsen in there, click on sold listings and then sort it by highest to lowest and then pick your jaw up off the floor. Way up, there goes the camera. And then pick your jaw up off the floor at the price, some of the prices that you're going to see. 31st of October, I think this is the final item for the month. This is the vintage Gillette Tech safety razor. So like I said before with the razors, I've been kind of going through, there's lots of different styles of Gillette razor. They do the old type, the Tech. There is, for some reason my mind's completely gone blank as to the other ones, but the Tech is a very common one. You find a lot of the Techs out there. They're still made to this day. They still make a modern iteration of this. It's a really popular safety razor, but this one was a 1963 model, and again I was able to date that through just kind of Googling how to date Gillette safety razors, and there's just tons of resources out there on them. So this one cost £2, sold for £24.99. I made £14.97 after shipping and fees on those. I've seen other people selling them, and the person that I got inspired to have a look into razors by was Resale Rabbit. Shout out to John. John doesn't clean any of them or anything either, and he still sells them. Fair play to him for doing that, and again, no criticism. I'm not here to stand in any criticism of anybody, but I couldn't bring myself to sell something dirty. So as kind of, they can be a bit disgusting when you pick up some of these razors, especially if they've been sat for a lot of years and stuff like that. They get a little bit of corrosion on them, a little bit of kind of green on them and stuff as well. They do sell like that, and you can sell them like that, and to be honest with you, it doesn't even make a massive difference to the price, whether you sell them cleaned up or just in a kind of dirty condition. But I can't bring myself to just sort of take them out of a, you know, car boot job lot or whatever and then just throw them on as they are. I've got to give them a clean. So yeah, clean that one up. It's all aluminium, nice little safety razor. Cost £2, sold for £24.99, made £14.97 after shipping and fees. And that is the final item for this mammoth roundup, guys. So the total cost of the items for October was $265.34. The total selling price for October was $2,166.87, and the total profit made there was $1,274.45. So it's a much better month than September. You know, a good sort of 30% uplift there straight away in profit on September. Total fees and everything, and total costs and fees came to a total of $892.42. So again, if you take the total selling price and knock off the $892.42, you're left with that profit figure there. So that is everything, guys, and that's us kind of caught up to date now in terms of sales roundups and the What Sells on eBay series. I do plan to continue doing the What Sells on eBay series, and I will be probably tweaking the way that I do it a little bit just so that it's not quite so labour intensive for me and not quite such a mammoth thing for you guys to have to sit down and watch either. I might end up doing something like a full roundup like this, but then doing an edited version where it's just kind of top 5 items, bottom 5 items for each month, just for anybody that wants a kind of more bite-sized approach to sort of how they take in their reselling content. But that is everything there for today, guys. As always, if you enjoyed the video, please do feel free to give me a like down below. If you didn't enjoy the video, similarly, give me a dislike down below. But don't just thumb and run. Please do leave a comment and let me know what you did and didn't like, and I'll try and sort of adjust my future content accordingly. You know, I do this for my viewers. I don't do this for my own benefit or to be a, you know, some sort of YouTube star. I do this just for you guys to find out a little bit about my experience in reselling. So I'm always keen to hear your feedback and your input on what I'm doing. And of course, if you do like the videos, do feel free to subscribe and give the bell icon in the corner a little tickle, and that'll give you a notification as to when I upload videos. But as always, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me today. I know this has been a long video, but have a great day, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.